Ithaca grad and the voice of the New York Knicks. Ithaca grad goes first, according to Chris Honorado. Also, an Ithaca grad as we get set to usher in a new NBA season. Actually starts tonight. Boston and Cleveland will be the regional game of interest, and we'll have highlights on the Mighty 1-3 News Channel 13 coming up tonight and tomorrow. Another game that'll draw a lot of headlines, the Knicks against Carmelo Anthony and Oklahoma City Thursday night, that game is. And Ed Cohen is on the play-by-play in his first year, and he joins us here on Big Board Sports. Hired in September, we'll call Knicks games on ESPN Radio in New York. Congrats on that, Ed, and good morning.
Thank you, Roger. I'm glad the Ithaca grads still get preference after all of these years.
Yeah, it does on this show, I can tell you that. No choice but to put that as the lead. So congrats on the play-by-play gig, Ed. And now I guess I'll just start with what have you seen in the preseason? How much should Knick fans read into an 0-5 start in the preseason?
Roger, obviously it's a small sample size. The preseason's not as long as it's been in years past. And, of course, when you have a young team, you want to experience winning in some form, even in the preseason. So I think there are a lot of pluses with this team because they're so young. There's 7 guys who are under the age of 25, and there's room to develop. Obviously, there's disappointment in what happened on the defensive end in the preseason because that's what Jeff Hornacek preached from the start of this year, how, the first goal is to improve on the defensive end. So that's something I think fans, no question, want to see improve. But there are a lot of guys who are new to this team, and I think when given the chance and when healthy, because we only saw Porzingis for a game and a half and Neely Keenan for 1 game, fans should be excited to see the young guys develop.
Well, it is young. I'm looking at ages. I'm going 22, 23, 24, 23. I mean, they're all young guys, but it seems like a young team that going in is built around Kristaps Porzingis.
This is his year. He is now the lead guy, and obviously things changed when they traded Carmelo Anthony to Oklahoma City. By the way, what a start in 2 nights in OKC. But once that happened 3 days before the first practice, the message was loud and clear. This is KP's team. And I think for him, it's going to be different as the lead guy. Teams will defend the entire team differently, knowing that he's the number 1 option. But I think there's also a sense of excitement on his part. 3rd year as a pro, now is the time. And if he can stay healthy, and it obviously has been an issue in the preseason, if he can stay healthy, I think for him on a personal level, individual level, watching his growth and development is arguably the biggest storyline for this team.
Ed, what's up, man? It's great to talk to you again, buddy.
I know that voice.
Is KP's health the biggest concern with him within the organization? Are there maturity concerns? Are there any concerns about him fully developing a game, or is it just strictly his ability to stay on the floor?
Chris, he is an incredibly hard worker and has a great head on his shoulders. I think that was a shocker to so many fans when he was drafted. If you remember on draft night, people were crying. They didn't know whether to celebrate or to cry and wonder, what's this going to lead to? 4th pick in 2015 from Latvia. There were a lot of questions, and he alleviated those questions right away with his approach, his mindset. So I think in terms of what he brings to the table, that's not a concern at all. And I think he's shown that he can adjust. I think it's going to be different as the number 1 option. That will take time to see how teams defend him, especially early on in the season. And, of course, the injuries, no doubt. When you miss 26 games in your first 2 years and you're 7'3", and in this modern-day NBA where you play against stretch 4s and stretch 5s, it's always a concern for someone of that body type. But going forward, I think this is going to be a year of not just development for Kristaps Porzingis. We're really going to understand who he is and what he can be as a pro in his 3rd year.
Talking with Ed Cohen, Ithaca grad, Knicks voice now in his first year, and been the voice of the New York Liberty and New York Cosmos on MSG, as the Knicks will play on Thursday against Carmelo and the Thunder in Oklahoma City. My question would be, Chris Stops, he got some guys here that can score. Who gets him the ball? I mean, the point guard position, to me, on any team is got to be rock solid. So is it Sessions going to start? He's really a career backup guy. And then Baker as well, coming off the bench, a young guy. I mean, who's going to handle the ball here and run the show?
No question, Roger. It's the most important position on the floor, always has been. And this day and age, it's such a loaded position across the league that it's imperative to have somebody who can get it to him consistently. Sessions can penetrate. He's quick in transition. He's a real likable guy. He's played in the league for over 10 years, and this will be a different role for him. He's played 82 games in a season, I believe, twice. So this will be somewhat of an adjustment. It's an adjustment for everybody because there's so many new players. But knowing that Frank Ntilikina is so young, it was important for the Knicks to surround him with veteran guys. Taking nothing away from Ron Baker, it's just his second year. So Sessions, when the dust settled after free agency, was the best option. And to piggyback on that, Jared Jack has been a wonderful presence for this team because of his experience in the league, at least in training camp and at least here in the early weeks. Non-guaranteed contract, so he'll see some time, and then the question will be, once Joakim Noah is available to come off his suspension 12 games in, whether Jack will still be on the roster. So it's Sessions for now, and I guess the big wait and see is, when will we see Frank Ntilikina? Could be Thursday, and how much when you factor in the knee kept him out the entire summer league, and he only got one game in the preseason. So it's certainly a position where they have guys, 4 on the roster right now, and it just depends in terms of minutes where the chips fall, especially with Ntilikina out.
Ed, what's the book on Ntilikina? Because we read so much and hear so much about what people don't like about the kid, but within the organization, what are their hopes for Frank Ntilikina? I mean, I know everybody throughout the season is going to make comparisons, you know this, to Dennis Smith Jr., but within the Knicks organization, what are their hopes for the kid?
First, Chris, you talk to these guys after practice and before games, they're rooting for him to do well. There's a real appreciation for how mature he is at the age of 19, having never really spent any years of his life abroad until he came over once the French league was complete. He's not the kind of guy who makes the same mistake twice, and I think Jeff Hornacek trusts that he's going to develop. Time will tell how he does matching the athleticism of some of the great point guards in the league, but he's not unsure of himself. He has a really good basketball IQ, and again, watching him, he understands what the staff is looking for. In terms of his biggest strength, and for now that seems like it's his defensive awareness, a lot's been made about his 7-foot wingspan, and it's no joke. Is going to be a disruptive guy, plus for the Knicks going forward.
Hey, I got one more for you, Ed, and that is some of the new faces that Knick fans will see, and one is Doug McDermott, who they seem to be high on. He's had a good preseason, and I know from the perimeter he can knock down perimeter shots, and certainly from behind the arc where he's about a 39.4% three-point shooter. What kind of role do you think McDermott will play, and do you think Knick fans are going to take a real liking to this kid?
No question. It's funny, Roger. Doug McDermott's playing for his 4th head coach in 4 years. So as much as he's tried to develop into an NBA player, and he's had some good seasons, it's been hard to find a place in the various rotations from Tom Thibodeau to Fred Hoiberg to Billy Donovan for half of last year, and now to Jeff Hornacek. He's moved well without the ball. I think he's become more of an attacking, whether it be shooting guard or small forward. He's improved at getting to the basket and creating for himself. great shooter. We know that. He had one of the best individual college seasons, really in recent memory, a couple of years ago at Creighton playing for his dad in that final year in the Big East. I think fans want to see him excel, and everybody knows defensively that's going to keep him on the floor. That's going to expand his minutes depending on where Jeff Hornacek plays him. Looked really good, as you mentioned, in the final preseason game against Washington on Friday.
Check out Ed on Twitter. Hit him up there at Ed Cohen Sports. Ed, one more thing, man. If memory serves me correctly, and look, it's been longer than both of us would like to admit, you're a Yankees fan. You can hear the pipes, the vocal cords. How do you protect them when watching the Yanks in the postseason?
Well, let's see. A couple of things were thrown, broken windows after games 1 and 2. I'm only kidding. You pace yourself, especially over 82 games. What an exciting run for the Yankees. And I was talking to someone about this, Chris, recent days. This has to be, I don't want to say the most successful team, but maybe the most likable since one of my favorite teams. I think we were hanging out in the dorms on the Upper Quad at Ithaca, Washington in 2001. But that was a special group. And I think this team, because this was so unexpected, has been so much fun to watch.
As a Braves fan, I'm glad you didn't go back to 96. Thank you.
Ooh, I forgot about the Braves connection there.
Yeah.
Ed, we appreciate it, man. I hope you have. I know you will have a great first year, and we'll look forward to it. And as Knick fans will, and we'll get you back on, I'm sure, sooner than later here on Big Board Sports.
Roger, Chris, thank you so much. I look forward to my next Wyland Parm across the street.
How about
wow.
that? Ed's done some E3 stuff at UA.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Yeah.
The Wyland Parm. It's still on the menu. It's still there. For how long, I don't know. They've changed owners, so I may get the boot. But for now, you can still find the Wyland Parm at the across the street pub. That's good stuff, Ed. We really appreciate a few minutes, man. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, guys.